And I'll lay sometimes at night, go to the bathroom, I'll come back, lay down there in the bed over the lambs, and some of them stories will come to me, you know. Geez, I got to tell Russ this one, I got to tell him that one. But I thought that thing about the Ferris wheel was nice in the memory of Vic.
Yeah.
He was some nice guy. Yeah, he was up there hunting one time, and they had a camp not far from our... In fact, they bought a camp that we had when we bought the schoolhouse. Their camp was only maybe 100 yards below us. And Vic was up there hunting, and he come out of the woods. It was cold. And as he walking up the road to come back, he saw two kids. No, they weren't little. He said about... the boy looked about 8 and the girl 10 or 12, standing there waiting for... And he said, geez, the way they were dressed, Bill, he said, just about half dressed. Well, that, he said, the woman was there, come out. She said, yeah, that bus should be here in a few minutes. So Vic said he was right near there, and he spoke to her, how are you? And they would talk a few minutes. He said, I couldn't help. He said, I have the camp up here, where the boys have the schoolhouse. Oh, yes. They said, we know him. Said, down where I am, he said, it's not where I live, but not far from there. He said, some wealthy people, he said, and they're always taking their clothes and buying new ones. Would you be offended if you brought a bag up? Well, geez, I don't know how to answer that. Of course not. She said, why would I be offended? Well, he said, you don't know us or anything. Well, she said, no. But he said, I see the children. And she said, well, we do the best we can. So I went up in about a week. I went up there. And he gave me this bag of clothes, and I took it there. And boy, oh boy, they waited out there for the bus, and they had sweaters and everything. My mother would go over to Ronkonkoma. I had a friend over there, and they exchanged clothes back and forth. And one time we got ready to go to Maine, and we had 14 laundry bags full of clothes. We took up to Cousin Byron. And then one time we got ready to go, and now to Byron's wife, because she was always looking for them. They had 5 kids. We went up there one time, and because they were waiting for the clothes. And my mother said to him, gee, we're sorry, but we couldn't bring any clothes along. A fellow had asked me just before, a day or two before I got ready to come, if I could bring a deep freeze of his up. I said, sure. I said to Mom, hey, there's the answer. We can do both. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, that deep freeze, it's all cleaned out, it's dry. Let's put all the clothes in there. So we did. And when we got up there, the Byron's in February, all colder than the son of a gun. Which we're telling him, Larry Short asked us to bring this deep freeze up to his in-laws. And we could see, you know. My mother, we were going to go the next morning, but not until about 10, 11 o'clock, about 8 o'clock, and the kids were home from school too. My mother said, you kids are not busy, I got a job for you. Sure, boy, they were right ready. What is it? Said, the deep freeze is full of clothes. Yeah. Oh, they went out there and carried them all in and laid them on the floor. And we were gone, and we didn't get back till about 3 or 4 that night. And Cousin Byron, of course, was home from work then. They had them all pressed and hanging up. And Arlene, the oldest one, she was about 12, 14 probably at that time, I don't know. She was saying there one day, not when her father was there, my mother and I, she said, Aunt Leona, I know Dad's having a hard time with 5 of us, but she said, someday I'd like to have money enough to buy a dress. My mother said, what's that? Well, she said, I have 2 pair of dungarees. I wear one to school, and the other I have home. When I come home from school, I take them off, and Mom washes them for the next day. Well, Mom said to her, so, well, Arlene, down the island, I might be able to do something for you. Well, that was it. And when they had all them clothes pressed, Byron come home. I'd come home, and he saw them. Well, I come home, and him and I took a big, like a wire in her bedroom, and strung it right across there. She had a good-sized bedroom. And she hung up 30 of them dresses and stuff. And we sat there talking, and my mother said to her, you know something, Arlene? And she said, what's that, Aunt Leona? You know now that you've got... Oh, she went to school the next day, and she had, like, say, a blue dress. The next day, she put a red one on, see? And her father said to her, Arlene, can't you wear a dress more than one day? Yes, Dad. But I just like to show that snooty Smith girl up. Father said at ease. So, with that, we're talking, her father went up to the little general store for something. Arlene is talking, and my mother said to her, you know, Arlene, once I give you something, it's yours. Oh, yes, I understand that, but I'm very grateful and thankful that you and Billy brought him up. Well, she said, you know, you telling about this friend of yours that doesn't have anything. If you want to, you could give her a couple. She said, Aunt Leona, I've been trying for 2 days how to ask you if I could do that. I thought you'd say, well, there's a very ungrateful person. I give her something she gives away. My mother said, I don't look at it that way. I think you're very good-hearted to share. Ran to that phone, about 10 minutes, the car pulled in the yard, and it was a girl and her mother. And they're in there in the bedroom, because I'm sitting out in the kitchen, and I could hear them. They're modeling the clothes. Yeah, and they went home with a half a dozen dresses and stuff. And they would somehow saw somebody else be happy too, you know.